Viewers, now let's also focus a little more in depth into the economic context behind this very historic trade deal that is getting formulated after negotiations. We are being joined by the founder of NYC Investors Forum, Mr. Ravi Karkara. Thank you, Mr. Karkara, for joining us on India Today. Very good morning to you from India, and I know it's quite late there at this point of time, so appreciate you for giving us the time. You know, I will begin my question on this very trade deal with regards to, given the current economic circumstances and the geopolitical circumstances, how are you looking at this trade deal, both from the perspective of the United States and India? What are each side's gaining, and also a note of caution as to what should they be looking out for in terms of pitfalls, if any, in the trade deal?
Excellent question, and great to be here. I think it's a very important question that, where is the US side? I think it's been very clear from the Trump administration, right from the campaigning to now, that make in America. He's been very clear to make America great again. So I also work on AI and food, look at AI, smart manufacturing. And I think it's really been for any political party or a politician, you want to bring jobs back, you want to boost the manufacturing. So if you really go back to the last 20 years in US, we have seen the flying off of jobs, manufacturing, and the supply chain over dependence on China. And I think he's been very clear he wants to bring the manufacturing back to the Midwest. I'm going to give you one particular example. The example that, if you look at the Foundry Association of America, which is the apex body which really helps industry boost, especially in the Midwest, the big, ginormous Caterpillars, etc. And I was speaking to the executive director, and he said, we really have an issue because even if you want to look at manufacturing in America, we do not have young professionals who want to be attracted to manufacturing. So this is a huge issue, I think, for Trump administration to realize in a year that even if we do manufacturing here, who will do it for US? Right. And also, if you look at China, where it's gone to dark factories, smart factories, the American industries are not really into the smart manufacturing. They want to be there, but they're not there. So if you look at the, SESME, which is the body of the Manufacturer Association of US, they've been flagging this for many years and saying that, we need to attract talent within America to look at manufacturing. So on the US side, while he wants to look at manufacturing, it'll be an incremental growth. And I've said this in many of my media interviews. Whereas for India, which has always been the right partner, first of all, congratulations to Modi ji and Trump and all the people who worked, especially Piyush Goyal ji, who really spent a lot of time behind the scenes. I remember, asking this question to His Excellency Jaishankar ji in the Newsweek here in New York. And I said, what happened to the FTA, sir? And he said, Ravi, there's not an FTA. This is end June. And he said, it's a BTA. And I turned around to a colleague next to me and I said, this is not great news. From there, coming back and resurrecting and taking to the next level is a great deal. Now, from India perspective, where you have an EU FTA and many other FTAs behind your back, you are getting a huge boost. And as Rohit said, this is a very clear opportunity for the 30 trillion possibility for Indian markets to manufacturers to dip. So any time in history of India, after many, many years or centuries, where India used to at one point be one of the biggest exporters going back centuries ago, this is the time where India can really, take on that huge opportunity where all the world markets are opening up and saying that if we need to look at manufacturing, we want to look at diversification of supply chain, we want to move away from dependency on China and have a reliable partner in the next 30, 40 years. This fits in very clearly with the Prime Minister's 2047 agenda. So if you want to look at manufacturing, you want to boost investment, but then also you want to make sure the talent comes in. So I think the opportunity to really relook at its AI-powered world economy, where SaaS is almost dead, you want to look at AI as service. That is great. So you have the 5 layers of AI. So I'm very excited about the summit. But on the other front, we need to ensure that the manufacturing talent is really created. Because if you're going to start looking at exports in pharmaceuticals, in food industry, in textile, what a boost. In shrimp. So we need talent and retain that talent here. So this is definitely a huge opportunity for the Indian manufacturers to boost.
You've very rightly mentioned there was a time last year when we were looking at whether at all there will be a trade deal or not. So coming back from that, making a U-turn from that and coming today, when we stand here on February 7th here, we have an interim trade deal that's already been released in this joint statement. So it's a long journey that both nations have, in fact, embarked upon to reach to this stage. And this is where I bring you a question with regards to the challenges. And I'll raise 2 points here. One is with regards to, this is on the Indian context. One is with regards to, does India at this point from the trade deal end up losing at any point when we speak of the fact that they will be lowering their imports of Russian oil, and that will be replaced by a US energy supply, which might be at a higher cost? Will that be affecting India? And as well as the agriculture sector, that's something that's very important, because for India, we have been very clear, our government has been very clear that our farmers are of paramount importance. So when we speak of farmers, but at the same time we look at imports coming in from the United States, how do you see that balance being struck at this point of time to ensure that the farmers in India do not lose out from this very trade deal?
Absolutely. I think this has been one of the most critical points, right, as you've seen in the last few months, that India has been very clear. If anything the world has learned is that Indians are also very tough negotiators. And I think this has been proven. It's a different India. The negotiation is not that we will be pushed by any government, just not the USA. I think that's a very clear signal. On the farmer question, because I also work on food industry and artificial intelligence, I think both sides, the farmers are very critical. So are the farmers in the Midwest and the farmers here. But the volumes are different, right? You're looking at the numbers. We are talking about Indian market, which is 1.4 billion, right? And US is about 400 million. And then within that, food industry is one important component, especially with corn, and corn going for ethanol is a great opportunity for India, especially when we're looking at a green powered economy. So that's really a big plus. You're looking at nuts coming from California. California almost took over the last 20 years and created a nuts industry which did not exist. I'm sure you probably have read about that. So, and Indians are one of the biggest consumers of nuts. So it is again welcome. So the volumes are very different on both sides. So that's one. Second, your question about oil. I think India's always made it very clear, including in this deal, that we will buy oil where it's cheap. So when the oil in India from Russia was about, I think, 15% discounted. Now it's 4% discounted. So the economies have changed. So India said, wherever we get the right oil, we will go to that market. So in this case, if it's coming through Venezuela and from US, it'll go for that. But I think the other point really is that if India is going to boost 2047, look at manufacturing. Manufacturing will not happen with no electricity, no energy. So you need to look at diversification of energy sources. I think the solar piece has been very, very strong. I work on air water generation. We have a company in India where we look at, and the company has been exporting to US to Mexico, and they were waiting for tariffs to really be sorted out so that they can export them. I can't tell you, and you've seen it from the data, right? Last quarter, then the increase in the exports, and this is just the I think the opening of the trailer. People are waiting. I think the biggest challenge, as you asked, will be that there will be high demand for Indian-made products. Will India live up to it? How will we make sure that the infrastructure that was pointed out in the budget, the rail corridors, the IMEC corridor and road, that is going to be definitely a big challenge. And that's why I really feel, and I've talked about the talent pool. The talent pool really needs to go beyond IIT. That really needs to go to tier 2 cities where we're looking at the youth skilled workers, especially in the northern states where we have a youth bulge. Another challenge really will be that the dependency on about 3 states which have been really going on manufacturing, which is Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. Is this the opportunity to really boost other states, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and some others? I think this is where we want to look at some of the opportunities.
Right, Mr. Karkara. Before I let you go, I have one last question here for you, and this is shifting a little from the sector-wise, analysis of what the trade deal has to bring about. If we look at the markets, we have seen for the last few months now, the Indian rupee, there has been concerns about that, and the conversion rates have been going higher, especially with the instability with the negotiations going on, especially from under the Trump administration. Would you say with this particular trade deal between India and US, it paves the path for stabilizing the rupee and also providing a way forward to narrowing that current deficit that stands somewhere? It'll be narrowing it somewhere around to 0.8% of the GDP. Would you say that that's going to be what the future holds for the Indian rupee?
Absolutely. I think for many countries, this is a time to really reflect on the SWIFT system or the post Bretton Woods system, right? I think this is where some many, and I think the lesson learned of last 1 year is that yes, a dollar is important, but is dollar the only important thing in 2026? I think this is where you hear the talk about de-dollarization. I'm not sure whether de-dollarization will happen overnight, but I think definitely the world really needs to look at, and I've said this, and some people got upset with me when I said, if anybody who wants to do a real redo the Bretton Woods agreement beyond dollar is Prime Minister Modi. The opportunities are clear. We have a BRICS summit, and the BRICS presidency can pave some important building blocks in what the overall financial and the monetary system will be. And I think you will see a boost of the rupee, but I think we have to look at 10 years, 20 or 30 years from now and see that will this continue, or will the world trade on a particular currency will be the only one? And also look at digital currencies, right? So you've seen the way crypto went crazy, rightly so, and you looked at you looked at gold and silver. So India and many other economies have increased because you've gone back to the tradition of depending on gold. So I think
Yes.
this is the opportunity where
So, Mr.
India
Karkar, I'm
will
sorry to
speak
interrupt you
to the
there,
US.
but just a short follow-up. Would you say that this deal also provides space to India to de-dollarize in the next 20, 30 years? Would you say there is space for that as well?
It's inevitable. It's inevitable. It'll happen.
It will
It's going
happen.
to be. I mean, that's my take. I think it's just not India. I think the world will not need to come. It's post, Pax Americana situation where we will have to look at many other things, just not dollar. When you're looking at a new recreation of I would say, world order, India needs to be careful on China. That's going to be critical because China is not very happy when it's seeing all these news coming in right now. But China also needs India because India is the biggest market, emerging market. So I think, and there I would just say the last note that Prime Minister, when he also looked at Africa, which was very smart,
Right.
because that's going to be the next 50 years from now. So I think the many important milestones which have been achieved. Again, congratulations to everybody who's worked on it. And thank you for having me on the show.
Mr. Karkara, thank you so much for joining us on India Today. That was the founder of the NYC Investors Forum, speaking on the very trade deal and decoding it from an economic perspective as to what it indeed means for both sides and what is it that we have to gain, what are the points that we have to look out for in terms of turning into a pitfall in the upcoming times. Of course, it's an interim deal, so of course there are areas that still need to be worked upon and certain very crucial points that have been raised by Ravi Karkara as he joined us. But